This conference will now be recorded.
Well, thank you all for joining me in one more session of our virtual business networking meeting. Today, we're very lucky we have Sherrie Dunlevy as our guest speaker for today, and I'll introduce her more properly here in just a second. Um, but as we always do, the meeting will have three parts, and I see a lot of regular faces. So the first part is um, everybody will take a minute or two to introduce themselves. After that, if there's any questions or comments on the introduction, we'll do that. And then we'll turn over the balance of the time to Sherrie for her to do her presentation. And I know she's got a little bit of a PowerPoint that she wants to share with us, keeping our fingers crossed that technology works today. And like I always say, I will try to get everybody out of here between 45 and 55 minutes after the hour so that if you have another video chat coming up at 3 p.m. U.S. time here on the East Coast or whatever your local time is, I don't make you late. So that's it. And again, I see a lot of regular faces, so that makes my job easier. Please don't forget to put your contact information in the chat, whatever you want to share, emails, phone numbers, website, LinkedIn profiles. And later tonight, when I send out the recording, I'll also send a copy of the chat so that you guys can set up your own one-on-one meetings or follow-ups or things like that. So Diane, since I know you've done this before and you know the routine, can you kick us off and give us your 1 or 2 minute introduction, please?
Absolutely. So, Diane Wingirter, I'm located in Columbus, Ohio. I've been a serial entrepreneur since birth. Like I say, I came out with a business plan and in a pair of high heels, so it must have been pretty rough on my mom. But I've owned 7 businesses along Life's Highway and currently have 5. Where I'm spending the majority of my time is in the grant writing space. So I'm passionate about it. I love it. And what I love is when they get the monies and then the monies are put towards whatever, whether it's a cause or the constituency or a building or whatever they need. That's, what brings me a lot of joy when I see that finally come to fruition. So, writing the grant is the pathway to getting to that solution, which is the monies they need to continue their cause. So if you know of any nonprofits or for-profits that are looking for grant funding, send them my way. Thanks, Diane Wingirter, Grant Writing for Goodness, focused on the greater good.
Perfect, fantastic. And now this is not that meaningful anymore because we're doing over a video chat, but I have to mention Diana's in Columbus, so hey, what can I tell you? Here in Ohio. Bob, would you like to please take a minute or two and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Bob Maloney. I'm in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, and I'm a consultant. My business is expense reduction analysts, and I work with business leaders to help them execute their plans, help them to do that by finding opportunities to reduce expenses where they didn't consider possible. Everything that I do is self-funding, and I'm able to provide expertise in over 40 different cost categories. Again, Bob Maloney with Expense Reduction Analysts.
Perfect, excellent. And now, which I'm always thrilled, and thank you for coming because I don't think Patrick has missed maybe one meeting. There was a time shift.
Yeah.
But Patrick comes to us all the way from Ireland, which to me is always very exciting. So, Patrick, same thing. If you could take a minute or two, please, to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Al, and thank you for your wonderful support and all your information. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to talk about a health space because every problem in the body is related to how our cells communicate. It all starts with amplifying and clarifying critical cell signaling, and the difference it is making in most people's lives is absolutely astonishing. So it is now possible to reimagine our health because science is now pointing to a whole new level, the cellular level, using groundbreaking redox technology impacting every organ and function in the body, including fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, and overwhelm. For many people, this is now the missing link for better health and vitality, independently validated, 100% non-toxic, enabling us to have a real advantage. And one thing we must be clear about is that redox signaling introduces a higher level of health because it goes beyond nutrition, beyond ingredients, and impacts the body at a depth that no other supplement has ever come close to achieving. My wish is to connect with those who have a health challenge, or those who are health conscious, or those who are looking for an additional income stream. Now in 4 continents. And my thanks to you all for the gift of your attention. My details are in the chat.
Fantastic. Yes, please don't forget to put all your contact information in the chat. And Rhoda, are you able to hear us now? Oh, well, I think you can hear us, but now we can't hear you. Now I show you muted. Try it again. Uh-oh, no, we can't hear you. I think now it's the opposite. Now it sounds like you can hear us and we can't hear you. Try logging out and logging back in. Okay, well, Rhoda logs out and logs back in. And before I introduce her guest speaker, does anybody have any questions or comments on the introductions? No. Okay, fantastic. Well, I will wait for Rhoda to come back, but I'm going to start by introducing our guest speaker. So today we have Sherrie Dunlevy. She has been an NBC anchor here, and she's in the Wheeling area. So I actually got to meet her in person, which was very exciting. And we got to have lunch at a really good Italian restaurant here in the Wheeling area. So that was a lot of fun. And even though she's not able to be here with us, I want to be on record saying thank you to Jennifer Lowe, because she's the one that made the introduction between Sherrie and me. And in addition to that, she's an author, she's a speaker, nationally recognized, internationally recognized. She wrote a book, which I know she's going to put the link to her book in the chat, and I'll share it with everybody later today or tonight when I send out the link to the YouTube video. But let's see if we can get Rhoda here. Rhoda, can you are you available to talk, to introduce yourself?
I'm right here. Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Perfect. Now everything's good.
Uh, Technology and I have a very strained relationship at times. Hi, everyone from Indianapolis, Indiana. I am Rhoda Israelov, owner of Say It For You. And my team and I, for the last 14 years, have been writing what you've been reading when you go on our clients' websites. So we are ghost bloggers par excellence, bringing messaging for business owners and practitioners who simply do not have the time to both do it and say it. Our clients are all through the US and Canada, but we are all here in Indiana. So our business is messaging and telling the clients, visitors to their website, that they are in the now and in the know. So we say it for you.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, Sherrie, the balance of the time is yours. Like I said, I try to get people out of here 45 to 55 minutes after the hour. And I know we talked a little bit about leaving maybe 5 or 10 minutes at the end for questions and answers, because that's always fun. But please feel free to introduce yourself in more detail. I didn't want to steal any of your thunder. And again, the rest of the balance of the time is yours.
Well, Sal, thank you very much. And what a delight it is to meet all of you. So thank you for inviting me. I feel privileged and honored to be meeting with your group today. I know the power of networking. I know the power of getting to know someone, the relationships that we form, getting to like those people, and then getting to do business with them or refer business with to them. So I know the power of this, and it is so strong, and it truly works. So when Sal and dear Jennifer invited me out to lunch, I was very intrigued. And now I have 2 new friends, in the Ohio Valley that I didn't know before, and now I'm adding you to my list. So I always feel that people are brought to us for a reason. And I'm very blessed to now know you all. So my name is Sherrie Dunlevy, like Sal said, and I call myself an inspirationista. That's self-proclaimed. That's when you really
I do a lot of things. My background, of course, is in television. For 16 years, I was a television news anchor, and then for 12 years, I was a radio talk host. And so in between that time, my audience watched me get married and have my first son and get pregnant with my second son, who we had a high risk pregnancy, and and then he eventually died shortly after he was born. And as I was telling Patrick, I kind of refer to myself as a recovering news anchor because, as someone who's an empath and recently learned that I'm a highly sensitive person, that too much influx of all the negativity of the world's news was overwhelming to me. I had this ability when I started in broadcasting to kind of compartmentalize it. I could compartmentalize what I saw and learned and broadcasted about at work. And I could leave it in this little box somewhere in my brain and carry on with the rest of my life. But once my son died, that mechanism broke. And suddenly I wasn't able, I knew this was not a healthy path for me. So that being said, even though I've lost my son, Brandon, I do not refer to myself other than as a bereaved mom. I do not give myself that label, which so many people do. So many people give themselves labels after they've had some kind of circumstance in life that has been negative. I had one friend who recently passed away, but she lost a leg. And she referred to herself constantly as an amputee. And when she referred to herself as an amputee, it truly limited her worldview and all the possibilities that were there for her in her life. And so, it's very easy as a parent to um, label yourself as a bereaved mother and carry the weight of that grief forever with you. But that's not the kind of life that I wanted to live. And I didn't think that it was the kind of life that would truly honor the life of my son, even though it was a very short life of 29 days. So, as I said, I'm honored to be with you. I have a small PowerPoint that's based off of my book, How Can I Help? Your go to guide for helping loved ones through life's difficulties. And I think that will better bring into view what I do now, because I make it my mission as an inspirationista to help inspire people to live their best lives by living them with purpose, by living them on purpose and with passion, and leading to living with joy, no matter what has happened to you in your past. And this all started with my book, How Can I Help? And so I'm going to go ahead and share the screen now so that I can get into this presentation so you can see it. And then I would love to open it up for for oh, there we go. I couldn't see the button for conversation. Not just necessarily question and answer, but actually conversation about what I'm going to share with you. So this is about how can I help? And it's how you can help those you love and care about as they grieve or as they are going through a very tough chapter in life. And I think that as we are coming out of a pandemic, I don't say that we're out of it yet, but we are moving through, and I would say that we are on the back end of it. But the number one cause for grief is death. Death of a parent, a spouse, a child, grandparent, sibling, a pet. So many people don't realize the significance of losing a pet. But that is the number one cause of grief. But what we don't realize is that grief can also be felt when we lose a relationship. When we lose a friendship or a marriage, when we've lost our career, a lot of people who have retired, they grieve because they've placed so much of who they are in what they do. Our health. Anytime we've had a diagnosis that alters our life or someone that we love has a diagnosis that, has altered our life and theirs. We grieve the person that we used to be or the health that we used to have. During the pandemic, I think a lot of us grieved the freedom, the way that we live our lives, and the way that we were able to maneuver about in our own world that was limited. Grief can also be felt when we lose something significant, like a graduation or a wedding that cancels. We had a lot of those things during the pandemic, when your children leave the nest, or even through a move. So there are so many things that we can lose. And so, what I want to ask you is, how can I help? What can I do to help ease the pain and suffering of someone who's grieving? And how can I provide words and actions that offer comfort? And as I alluded to earlier, prior to me doing this work, I was a television news anchor. I was loving life. I had an exciting career. I was married. I started a family. I was a homeowner. And then I shifted from living to 13 years of just surviving, of being that grieving mom, existing in life, not truly living. I had a high risk pregnancy. I lost my son. As a result of losing my son, my husband and I lost three very significant friendships. People who stood up for us at our wedding just disappeared out of our life. And then I ended my lifelong career that I had worked all my entire life for. It was a dream career, and I ended up leaving that. So I was surviving all of this loss. And I survived it for many, many years. But now I'm happy to report that I am thriving as a result of all the things that have happened, and as the result of the work that I have been able to do and that I teach others to do on the other side of grief. I'm loving life now. I'm a best-selling author. I'm founder of something called the Graduating Grief Academy. I host the Graduating Grief podcast, and I've recently just started up a women's group in my community that helps people live their lives, like I said, on purpose with passion and joy. So again, the question is, how can I help? I want to give you some things that you can do right now to help ease the pain and suffering of someone who is grieving. And the first way that we do that is we look at, how do we respond when we find out bad news that someone has just died, that a friend just lost their husband or their child, or that they just lost their job, or they just got diagnosed with cancer. How do you respond? Do you step back in fear, or do you step forward with love and compassion? I'm going to show you how to step forward with love and compassion, because there are a lot of people, we hear about flight, fight, or freeze. Okay. We've heard about this in psychology for years. Okay. But I've thought about this. How did our friends desert us? What was this about? And I've come up with three reasons. The first one is that it hits too close to home. I've had many people who've had cancer or other debilitating diseases say that they've had people disappear out of their life, acting as if what they had was contagious, that their friends were going to catch it from them. Okay. So it hits too close to home. I think for me and my husband, when we lost our child, all of the friends that left us, um, two of them, I think it hit too close to home. They were pregnant or having babies themselves. And so the thought of the possibility, the realness of actually knowing someone who lost a child was just too frightening for them. They don't know what to say or do. The other set of friends that left us decided not to have children. So they probably didn't know what to do or say to help two parents who have just lost their child. But I think the majority of people fall in the third category, which is they're afraid they will say or do something and it will be wrong. And so they just don't do anything at all. So some of us step back in fear. Some of us step back because we freeze. So it hits too close to home. What if this happened to me? It hurts me to see others in pain. I don't know what to do or say because it's never been personally experienced by me, or it's never been modeled by anyone. I didn't have family who reached out to people. So I really don't know what to do or say. And then what if I do it wrong? What if it makes it worse? What if I make them cry? I just want whatever I want to do to be perfect. Newsflash, nothing you can do is going to make it better. It's not going to cure it. It's not going to um, do anything, but what it's going to do is make the other person, if you do step out in love, feel supported. That's what my book is about. How can I help? It tells you what to do. It tells you what to say and how to do and say those things better. I wrote this book so that no one else would have to suffer this kind of loss, so that no one else would never have, that they could answer these questions. I don't know what to say or what to do. It's in there. I want so I dispel a lot of the myths and the fears that you might have and give you some practical tips about it. And I'm not the expert in this. I say I'm a recovering news reporter, but in essence, this has prepared me, that career prepared me to write this book because I was able to interview people who have gone through some of the roughest kind of losses that you can in life, and they told me what their friends and family did to help support them, to help them feel loved as they were moving through these unsettled waters of their lives. So, to step out in love, there are two things overall that people have said help them the most, hands down. I would say 85% of those who responded said that prayer. Prayer helps. So if all else fails, pray for that person. And it doesn't matter whether you are a religious person, if you want to send up good vibes, if you want to send out love, whatever it is felt and it is palpable. And the people that I interviewed in my book say that as well. One woman said that she felt when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, the love and the prayers that were sent on her behalf, she said, were palpable. I could feel them. Another woman said, the fact that I knew that someone was stopping down, even for 30 seconds of their day, to think about me and my situation and to pray for a different outcome, that made me feel so good. And so I would say the vast majority of people said prayer really truly helps. 100% of the people who responded said be there. So, what does that mean? What does be there look like? Well, be there looks like showing up, okay? And pre-pandemic, when this book was written, showing up meant exactly what it was. Be there in person. Now we can be there in person or virtually, kind of how we're meeting right now. We are here for each other. We can share love. We can share we can share all kinds of goodness together in community. And so technology has really helped us in this endeavor. But what does be there look like? Attend a visitation if there is one, if there's been a death, an at-home visit, a call, and keep calling back, because even if they don't feel like talking, they can hear your voice, they can hear the love and concern in your voice. Voice messaging is a wonderful thing. Zoom and Skype, social media messaging, and social media messaging privately, not when someone posts my mother died and someone sends up the prayer emoji. If that relationship means anything to you, a prayer emoji is simply not enough. It's not enough. Other ways that we can be there for people: we can send food or drinks to the house. Don't forget disposable plates, cups, napkins. We can run errands. We can care for children and pets, make phone calls for them. Um, Listen to understand, not listen to solve their problem, but just let them vent. You don't have to say anything. Sending a card with a message is wonderful. And if you have a story about their loved one, by all means, share it, because that's truly a gift of gold you can give to that person. So all of these things are combined inside of my book. And it's called How Can I Help? Your go-to guide for helping loved ones through life's difficulties. And I always tell people this is the book that every single person needs to read. It can help every single person, even if you are an expert in how to reach out to friends and family who are suffering through a life tragedy. But it is the book that every grieving person wishes their friends had already read. That's the problem. If you've already read this, then you're prepared and you know what to do. If you haven't, you might hesitate. And your friends that are going through life's challenges need you now more than ever. So here is all of my information. My website, sherriedunlevy.com. I have the Graduating Grief podcast. You can get free content for if you want to share things with friends and family. You can go to graduatinggrief.com and get all of that. And one of the things, I'm going to stop the share right now if I can find us. Let me see. I'm not able, let me see if I can get let me escape. Okay, now I can find us and I'll stop the share. One of the things that I wanted to share, one last thing, is that a lot of people, and I want to see this by a show of hands, okay? And I have to be on here to see everyone because I say, here are some things that you can say and do. I don't say anything that you're doing is wrong because, in my opinion, if you are stepping out, even if it's awkwardly, it's better than not doing anything at all. So I always say there's helpful things you can do and not so helpful things you can do. So here's a not so helpful thing that you can do, and I'll show you how to turn it around. So by a show of hands, how many people, when they know someone has recently lost someone they loved, or they know that, they're running people, their friend has to take time off from work so they can go to treatments, and you say, Sal, if there's anything that you need, please let me know. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. How many of us have said that? I would think that just about every single one of us have said that. Okay. I think in most places, in most cases, we do mean that. And we say that because we really don't know what they need. And we just don't, we're afraid of making it any more personal than that. Okay. So here's how you can better make this more effective, because most people will say, there's nothing, I can't think of anything right now. Okay. Because when you're grieving, you don't even know what day it is. You don't even know what time of day it is, let alone what you need. If you've had traditional household roles, a widow might not even know that she needs to have her grass cut until 2 weeks later, and it's grown, a foot. A man might not know how to do laundry. There are just some people that have those traditional roles. And so they don't know what they don't know until it just creeps up in their life, until after the fog clears. So a better way to say that is to say, Sal, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. Hey, can I make some phone calls for you? I'm going to the store, in 2 hours. Would you like to make a list and I can pick up some groceries for you? Do you need any food? Can I bring any food over? Hey, do you need any laundry done? 2 or 3 things that you're willing to do for this person that they might not know. And chances are they'll say no, but ask again in a couple of weeks, because chances are they might need your help then. And I think that that is so much more helpful and more productive and more supportive, is if we can name 3 things that we would willingly do for that person. And I always tell people when I'm giving my talks, one of the things you'll never hear me do is say, "Can I come clean your house?" I will say, "Can I send someone to come clean your house? Can I get a cleaning service?" But so do the things that, if you can't mow grass, don't offer to mow their lawn, right? Offer to help them find someone that can mow their lawn, someone in their neighborhood or whatnot. But these are the things that I'm saying, is we can be a lot more helpful if we get more specific instead of generalized. So that's what I try to do with this book. I wanted to create a book that will preserve relationships for those people who truly are afraid of either interjecting themselves or afraid of it being too emotional for them, afraid of reaching out and stepping out and supporting someone. Because I think as we've gone through this pandemic, we realize we need people now more than ever. We need to feel loved. We need to feel supported. And that has been stronger now than it ever has. And that's why I feel like, Sal, I'm indebted to you for allowing me to come and share this message because I think it's important that everyone knows this. So I'm encouraging you all to step out in love the next time you have a friend that's facing a difficulty in life. So, thank you very much for allowing me to spend some time with you, for sharing my mission and my message with you. And if anyone would like to, share a story or add a comment or even have a question, I would be more than happy to get into a conversation with you. Patrick?
How you doing? Listen, my congratulations to you for overcoming that tragedy. What was your son's name?
Brandon.
Brandon.
Brandon Joseph Dunlevy.
Brandon Joseph. Wow. And I- what's so incredible about it is you didn't allow it to become your identity. And I was very interested in when you said there about fear, because the opposite to fear is faith.
Mm.
And faith is, from what I read, is the ability to see the invisible and to believe in the incredible. And that will permit us to receive what the masses call the impossible. So I think, I know in Ireland anyway, people's faith has diminished. Attendance at church services and services generally have gone way down. And this is because of all the paedophile history and all these cases and all that kind of thing. But you see, in the end of the day, it's about us and about faith. So, so interesting. Well done. Well done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing such a powerful and such a personal message in such a candid fashion. So, does anybody else have a question or comment? I certainly do, but I'd like to give a chance to somebody else first.
I could add that to me this was kind of enlightening. The fact that you brought up being more specific, because I mean I could see, when you actually say it, I could see how someone they could be overwhelmed with their grief, and when you ask them a general question, they have no idea. They have no idea what they could possibly need. They might actually just want you to go away. For that matter, it's so debilitating to be in a situation like that. So I appreciate the advice that offer some type of specific recommendation or something that you could do that they might need.
Thank you very much. And I find that that is very effective. And here's another little tip I want to share with you. Um, when you like leave a voicemail or leave a message, if they don't want to talk to someone or they aren't available to talk, one of the best things, because last year was it was a horrendous year for me. I started in January. I lost my beloved dog, who was like my substitute baby. By May, I lost my father, and by October, my best friend from high school and college roommate died. So I had three significant losses within 1 year. And it got to the point where my dad had a 6-week hospital stay in addition to, and he was taken from Wheeling, West Virginia, Diane, up to the Wexner Center in Columbus. So we had this 2.5 hour commute. When he died, I had to not only, make arrangements to bring him back, but I had to get my mother back. And there was just so much going on that when people were calling me, like it was overwhelming. And one friend called and she said, "Don't call me back. I just wanted to call you and tell you that I love you and I'm support you and I'm here for you and I'm going to call you tomorrow. And you don't call me, I will call you. You call me if you need me, but I will call you. Don't feel obligated that you have to return my phone call." That was like such a relief because you start thinking, "Oh, I've got to thank this person and I got to call this person back and I have to," and it just becomes so overwhelming. And I had to get my mom back home safely. That was my main job that day. I couldn't be taking phone calls. So to add that to a message was like gold for me. And so as I learn, I share.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from anybody?
Well, sure, I could go on a whole tangent, but so when you asked the question before and asked us to raise our hand, I did not raise my hand because whether it's fortunate or unfortunately, I learned that lesson long ago that you need to be very specific when you inform someone that you're willing to help and like you do the three things. So I learned that a while ago, so that's why I didn't raise my hand. I'm already quite aware of that. And same thing, just to encourage everyone to transfer that over to their prayers as well. So it's one thing to pray for someone generically, and it's another thing to be very, very specific in your prayers. So, and I've learned that as well. You made one comment, Sherrie, that I will disagree with.
Okay.
Um, you said nothing you can do can make it better or fix it. I'm not sure what your exact
I
phrase
should have
was.
said, you are not responsible, or there's nothing you can do that's going to change it. I can't change the fact that you lost someone. That's what I
Right.
should have said.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
But
mean, not
I
at that
can
point.
help you feel better.
Yeah. But when you do know people that are ill, have disease, the power of prayer can change that. And I'll just make that statement out there. It's true. I've seen it happen. I've done it, and others have been healed. So I'm encouraging those to be specific in your prayer and pray for healing. They are healed, not going to be or will be. It's present tense. They are healed, and it goes back to the faith. And if you believe it, it will happen. So just as specific as you're asking people to be in their requests for how they can help someone, I'm just encouraging you to be as specific in your prayer requests and make them very um, poignant and something that can be demonstrative and shown right back to you, and it'll blow you away
That's
with that
beautiful.
with that
Thank you for
power.
sharing.
So yeah.
So, Sherry, let me ask you a question. And first of all, in the context that I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything like that, but you talked about grief and you talked about it sometimes being triggered by an event, a death of a loved one, a family member, a pet, whatever the case may be, losing your job, whatever. But a lot of, I guess it seems to me there's a lot of interplay with depression.
With
And
what?
so
I couldn't hear you.
a lot of interplay with depression.
Depression.
Um, like the grief may cause you to be depressed, for example. So I guess my question is, when you think about it and you think about depression, is there anything you would do different? And also, what would you use some of these techniques for somebody that's just purely depressed, independent of having grief triggered by an event?
Well, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a counselor. So I personally can only speak from personal experience. And that was after I lost my son. Well, no, um, prior to losing my son, after giving birth to my son, I was put on antidepressants. My doctor thought that that would be a good idea for me because of what was going on. And I stayed on those antidepressants for 13 years. And deep down inside, I knew that I had grief living inside of me, but I was not able to access it and get it up. It wasn't, that's why I said I existed. I existed for 13 years. I'm not saying that antidepressants were the reason for that existing. I did a lot of personal development, a lot of spiritual development, but I had been going to counseling during the time of my son's death. But I knew that that grief, untreated grief, can lead to depression, but I hadn't treated my grief at all. So it wasn't until I turned 50 and now I'm 60, so 10 years ago, that I decided to get off the antidepressants, to let myself heal. And I hired a grief coach who walked me through this journey, and literally it gave me back my life. That's why I have the Life of Thrive. And that's what I do with the Graduating Grief Academy. I take people and do the same thing that was done for me. I take them through grief completion and life reorganization.
Okay,
So
perfect.
untreated grief, I think we look at time will heal all wounds, and we wait for something to happen, okay? Or you carry this grief the rest of your life. We buy into those two myths, and that's what keeps us existing in life and not thriving. It keeps us surviving but not thriving.
Okay, perfect. Well, guys, it is a little bit past 2:45, and as I mentioned in the beginning, I do want to get everybody out of here somewhere between 2:45, 2:55. Um, so thank you, Sherrie, for again being our guest speaker today. Does anybody have one last comment before we disband? Any on this or any other topic? Just one last question, one last comment on this or anything else before we close out today's session. Let me just say we'll have another session in exactly 2 weeks, like we always do. So keep an eye out for all those emails. And if not, thank you,
One
Sherrie, again
last
for being
question. One last question.
one last question,
I've just
Patrick.
thought of this now. I've just thought of this now. Sherry, with all the people you interviewed down the years,
Mhm.
what was the most common comment they had about life and living?
Life and what?
Living. Could be challenges, it could be were they in gratitude, were they not in gratitude, were they
The people, well, I would say that the people that affected me the most were those who I saw a great resilience in them. A great resilience that tomorrow, not only, maybe wasn't even a belief that they would necessarily get better, but a belief that tomorrow could be better.
right? That's wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're going to close it out for today. I hope I can see everyone again in 2 weeks. And once again, Sherrie, thank you for being our guest speaker. And
Thank
keep an eye out for the email with the link for the recording tonight and the information in the chat. And I'll see everybody again in 2 weeks.
Thank you
Hi,
very
Thank you,
much.
thank you,
Sal.
thank you,
You're very
thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.